The time
I've
is about 30 seconds.
I've seen them.
15.
It's beautiful.
I wanted it.
Are we going to do this? Yeah.
So we'll
And
start
you
off
came
with
back.
2 minutes. Well, let's switch between the two. 2 minutes to opening statements as well as closing.
Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started now. Everyone silence their cell phones, take a seat, and please stop chit-chatting unless you want to come call everyone on the mic. I'm going to hand it over to Samantha Venable-Harjo, Mount Home Chamber President.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. So we're trying out some new steps. If you see us messing with technology, we're actually going to try to live stream this after a couple years of trying to. So I want to thank you all for coming to the Mountain Home Chamber of Commerce Primary Election Political Forum. On behalf of the Board of Directors, we're happy to continue to offer this forum to allow our members of the community a chance to hear from the candidates directly. Mountain Home precincts represented over 35% of the voter turnout for District 8 in the last election, so we're thrilled that we're able to have our senator and representative candidates running for, candidates with us here tonight. We're also fortunate to have so many qualified candidates running for county commissioner and county clerk. Tonight's event will be panels of contested seats for the primary election. We do have other candidates for these roles, and we will see them for our general election forum in the fall. I know in the room I have seen that we have Heather Lewis. She's an independent running for 8A. Heather, would you? Thank you so much. We also have several other current folks who will be on the ballot in the primary election who are running in uncontested seats. We have Mr. Josh Dyson, our tax assessor. Miss Kathy Smith is here, our new treasurer. Thank you so much. We also have former city councilman and representative Matt Bundy. Back. We also have City Councilman Scott Harjo. Have you missed any other elected officials in the room? Other than our wonderful incumbents who are here to join us for hurricanes. And we'll make sure they get introduced as well. In case you haven't seen them already, the question sheets are over along the side, so that's how we're addressing questions tonight. I'm sure that our MC will go over this, but that means that we're asking for no comments from the crowd. I'd like to thank the Mountain Home News and Channel 6 for joining us here tonight to make sure we are sharing this information out. We'll also be live streaming from the Chamber of Commerce page. And we'd also like to thank the wonderful Elks Lodge for hosting this event for us. I'd now like to introduce the Master of Ceremonies for tonight's forum. As a longtime volunteer, former board member, and chairwoman of the Air Force Appreciation Day Committee for the last 5 years, she's still willing to lend a hand to public speaking tasks not many of us want to. So we're so grateful to have Betsy Hiddleston leading our forum tonight.
Well, after that introduction, just a reminder, I am a volunteer, so be nice and remember you get what you pay for. Thank you, Sam, and thank you to the Mountain Home Chamber for organizing tonight's forum. First, I want to thank all of our candidates for being here tonight and for being willing to run for office. Running for public office not only takes time, courage, and dedication, but your willingness to engage in democracy and open dialogue helps strengthen our community and our state as a whole. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's ideas and perspectives tonight. As Sam said, we will be hosting candidates that are running for Elmore County Clerk and Elmore County Commissioner. Obviously, they're seated in front of you right now, and that will be about the first hour of tonight's event. After that, we'll take a short break, and then we'll welcome up our candidates running for Idaho State Senate District 8, as well as our Idaho State House Representative District 8, seats A and B. I also want to thank our timekeeper, Sophia Axtell, and our question ushers, Sam and Ashlyn. Like Sam said, we are taking questions from the audience, so if you have a question that comes to mind, Either raise your hand, she'll bring, one of them will bring a note card and a pen to you, or you can just get up and head over to the tables or wherever you see them. They'll happily take your questions. All your questions can be directed to a specific candidate, several candidates, or all candidates. Questions that are unclear, hostile, or of personal nature will not be asked tonight. Questions that fall on the same general topic may be consolidated, just to allow us to cover as many topics as we can in our small time together. Any remaining questions, we've asked that they get emailed to the candidates, and they will be published, I believe, on social media, and maybe in other publications. We'll know by the end of tonight for you all to see afterwards. As we go on, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Sophia in the center will kindly keep track of us, and she will be showing us when we have 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, and when to stop. To keep things running smoothly, timing will begin as soon as the candidate arrives to the podium. Now, we'll get into our questions, but in order to keep everything fair, I've decided to randomize how everyone answers each question. So the order of everyone's answers has been randomized by ChatGPT. Because that's the only fair way to do it, is have the robots do it. So, now I think we're going to get started with some opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and share why they are running for their seat. First, we're going to start with county commissioners. First, I'd like to welcome up candidate running for county commissioner. I'm so sorry, take that back, county clerk. I swear I'm going to get this right, but remember, I'm doing this for free. County clerks, you guys are up. We're going to start, I believe, with Becky Garvey.
Good evening. My name is Becky Garvey, and I am running for the Elks County Clerk position. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce here in Elks for hosting this forum. Events like this are important because they give you all the opportunity to meet the candidates directly from us. I have spent the last 4 years serving on City Council, as a council member for the City of Mountain Home. It has been one of the most challenging and one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. During that time, I learned a great deal, and I am truly grateful for the opportunity to serve. I have experienced both the highs and the lows of being on the dais. But through it all, I remain committed to the role and to the citizens I represent. Transparency and integrity have guided every decision I've made. I bring strong moral resolve and a commitment to my values, even when there is pressure to stay silent or conform. This isn't just a position to me. It's a commitment to serve this community with integrity, accountability, and respect. And I am ready to go to work for the citizens of Elmore County. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky Garvey. And I'd now like to welcome up Julie Kennedy.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Julie Kennedy, and I'm running for county clerk. I was born and raised in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, so I am a transplant here in Mountain Home. I've lived here for about 19 years total. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I have a bachelor's degree from Embry-Riddle University. I've worked for the county for 11 years now, and in that time I've held and mastered several positions within the district, within the county, under the county clerk, to become a well-rounded candidate for one day to become county clerk. I worked in the district court, both in the civil and criminal side. I worked as an election specialist, conducting elections from ballot creation to canvass. I was the deputy recorder. I ensured documents were recorded accurately and in a timely manner. I am currently the comptroller and the chief deputy clerk for the standing county clerk. One of my main goals, if I'm elected, is to ensure that we keep our elections process secure and conducted with integrity and transparency. I will have an open door policy and will make myself available to every citizen. I volunteer quite a bit of my time with the community, and I enjoy serving the citizens of Elmore County, and I hope I can continue to do so as your next county clerk. Thank you.
Julie Kennedy, and now I'd like to welcome up Hillary Ryan.
evening, everyone. My name is Hillary Rodden, and I'm running for Elmore County Clerk. I was born in Danville, Illinois, and I spent most of my childhood moving around the country and other countries because I was a military child. I have lived in Mountain Home for the past 23 years. Don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. My husband James and my son Jordan over there, we really love it here, and we love the people that are in this community. Excuse me. I have served Mountain Home and Elmore County in many roles. I worked as a patient access specialist for St. Luke's. I have done elections, and I am now a prosecuting attorney's legal assistant. I have background in record keeping, elections practices, and processes of our legal system, all of which will help me fulfill the role of county clerk. I believe in steady leadership, clear communication, and commitment to doing the job right the first time. I understand the responsibility that comes along with being clerk, and I do not take that lightly. I plan to lead with transparency, dedication, and respect for all citizens of Elmore County. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates for Elmore County Clerk. I'd like to move on to opening statements for Elmore County Commissioner. First, I'd like to welcome up Leslie Hammer.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming. And just wanted to thank the Chamber as well for having us and able to meet each other. Those that don't know me, my name is Leslie Hammer, and I'm running for Elmore County Commissioner, District 2. And a little about me, my dad was in the Air Force. We moved several times. Mom always made it a home for us wherever we went. My brother, sister, and I were the military brats. That's what they used to call us. Not just us, all kids. And we learned to cope with the moving. I was 12 when my dad got orders to come to Mountain Home Air Force Base. And driving from California, map in my mom's lap, and we arrived right on time. That my dad had a timer on his watch. Because he was military, he was very predictable. And as a 12-year-old, when you hear Mountain Home, I was thinking we were going to live in the mountains. When we arrived, I did cry a little, probably a lot, but that didn't last long, and it's been a wonderful place to live. My parents retired and made it their home. I have been married 42 years today and raised 2 great kids, have 5 grandkids. Richard, my husband, is an owner of a 3rd-generation small business. He'll tell you he's been working since he was 3. But he has a huge family that is deep-rooted in our community. I think it's funny, if you think about it, that a lot of us graduated. Oh, it does. Well, thank you.
Mark your spot, closing statements, you'll just finish up with that. Okay, next up, I'd like to welcome up Ren Hernandez.
Hello, thank you everyone for having us here tonight so we can tell you our views and our issues. My name is Ren Hernandez. I'm running for Elmore County Commissioner. I have over 25 years in budgeting and finance experience as well as construction and agriculture experience. I helped run a large electrical contracting company where we had over 100 employees, and all of my duties were budgeting, finance, HR, accounts payable, accounts receivable, contracts, working with inspectors and other contractors. My husband, Johnny, and myself also started an electrical and general contracting company where I had to do all of those things, plus do bid takeoffs and do a lot of the meeting of the contractors and the inspectors. Currently, I work for the Idaho Barley Commission, where I represent barley farmers across the whole state. I work with University of Idaho researchers. I work with a lot of contracts that I have to deal with. And I wanted to run because I realized that we have a lot of growth coming, and I think it's going to take somebody with construction, budget, finance, and agriculture background to do that. I am just here for the community. Me and my husband have raised 5 children. We have them all across the country. Our last one is here at home still. She's a junior. She's going to be going to BSU. We have a small cattle ranch that we have where we have raised heads just for ourselves, and in the senior center we do raise cattle for. And so I just want to be here and do anything I can for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ren. Now, Kelly Riggs.
Thank you. I'm nervous. I feel like I have to talk fast. My name is Kelly Riggs, running for Elmore County Commissioner. I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this on. I'd like to thank my wife, because when we agreed that I'd do this, I had no idea how much work she was going to have to do. So thank you. Born and raised in Glens Ferry, went to school, all 12 grades there, got out of school, went to a tech school just to get away from home, basically, commercial and fine art. I did get a degree. I don't think that was a legitimate school, but they took my money like a legitimate school, so I'm keeping that certificate. I come back to the ranch after school, got married, come back to the ranch, a 3rd generation cattle ranch. This year we've been in business for 100 years, paying taxes and everything. It takes a lot to be a rancher and be in business for 100 years. You have to have pretty keen sense of budget, knowledge. Of course, we deal with water issues on a daily basis, and a lot of people and businesses and paying your bills and stuff like that. That's really important. But I think the reason I wanted to get involved in the county commissioner race is because I'm one of those people that thinks you can't get anything accomplished from the outside. You can stand on the outside and look at the inside and like to make changes, but nobody's really listening. You have to get involved to make changes. And I learned that on the school board, Elmore County School Board. You have to be involved to make changes. So that's the big reason that I became involved. And so thank you for coming out. This process is what makes it all worthwhile. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you to all the spouses for not only supporting your spouse and running tonight, but also sticking through it if they do win office, because it'll be a long couple of years. But thank you for sharing them on anniversaries as well as through the long haul. First, we are going to start with some questions. So first, this question is actually directed to our county clerks. However, I'm going to veto that and ask all candidates, because I think this is something commissioners could have a say in as well. Commissioners might even have a little more say than our county clerks, but we'll see if the clerks can educate me. So for all candidates, the question is from Rebecca. What is something new you can do to bring new revenue to the county? Again, what is something new you can do to bring new revenue to the county? First, with our county clerks, I would like to welcome up Julie Kennedy.
Well, that is a very interesting question. What can we do to create new revenue for the county? So currently we generate revenue with passports and marriage licenses. Wow, that's a really good question. I do know, so with elections, so when somebody comes in to request documents, sometimes those documents are quite lengthy. They take up quite a bit of time sometimes to pull, and we currently do not charge for those documents. So maybe that could be one way that we could generate revenue, would be to charge for those documents that people request that they are not paying for. I do know other counties do charge for those types of documents, like the voter rolls and everything like that. So that would be, I would say, another good source of revenue that we are not capturing currently.
Thank you.
And those points are going first, so nailed it. Next up, Becky Garvey.
That is an interesting question, especially for in the county clerk role. I think what Julie said, absolutely. If you have a records request, public records request, and it takes time, everyone should be charging. That time is for, but I knew one of the labor and what she mentioned, that's a great point. I think this question, if I could read into it, is probably a question more for the economic vitality, which a county clerk really, it's not in their purview. There are lots of ways that the city and the county can bring together to bring revenue, but that's just not a question that I'm willing to throw out there and answer as far as what I think could happen. So thank you guys.
Now you know why I put on the commissioners too. Next up, Hillary Rodden.
As both Julie and Becky said, that is a very, very interesting question. I do believe that this question is probably more posed towards the commissioners and their approval on programs that we can do. But as Julie said, maybe charging more or starting to charge for election documents, that is a great place to start. Maybe possibly starting a different program where people can come in and possibly do their fingerprints, because I know we offer the passport services and we offer marriage licenses. How many times do jobs request fingerprints and you can't get an appointment to get in right away at the sheriff's office? Get them done there, we send them off, good to go.
Thank you, county clerks. To our county commissioners, again, the question is, what is something new you can do to bring revenue to Elmore County? First up, Brian Hernandez.
That's actually a question I've been thinking about myself. I think it's important that we do bring new revenue. I think warehousing businesses would be a good start, and maybe aerospace companies, something that doesn't need water. We can't have any more water going out, and I would like to bring in new companies like that where maybe we could cut property taxes, especially for our seniors, first-time home buyers. We need something to supplement that cost, because we shouldn't have people losing their houses after they've retired and paid off their house. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Kelly Riggs.
Thank you. I think that what we see across Idaho is small school districts are getting smaller, and large school districts are getting larger, because small towns are losing their industry. They're losing their industry that brings family into those communities. And that's something that, as a county commissioner, that you do have a little bit of sway for, is what can we do to promote industry in small communities that brings in families. And industry means revenue increase because of salaries and job opportunities. And I think that's important, especially for our small schools across Idaho, but especially in our county. The Glennsbury School District, Bruno School District, Grandview School District, those small schools that are close to us, we see them just declining in numbers. And because the industry is gone and the families are leaving. So.
Thank you, Kelly. Leslie Hammer.
I think that is a good question as well. The town is growing, and there's options out there. Ren is very correct. We need to make sure that it's something that does not use the water source that we have, but there is options that, in fact, I was looking the other day, I work at the hospital, and, you know, we look for revenue as well and try to build up for future building. And I think when they are building houses or apartment buildings, I think that we need to look at what is beneficial for the town and not burdening the taxpayers. But I don't know any circumstances with this, but I think we do need some revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This next question is for our county commissioner candidates from Joanna Smith. For your intended role, have you attended meetings in the last few months for the Elmore County Commissioners? If you have not attended meetings, can you share why and what your plan is to maintain attendance if elected? First up is going to be Kelly Riggs.
Thank you for that question. No, I have not attended meetings. And I think growing up on the family cattle ranch, you learn a work ethic and you learn a commitment. And if I were to win the county commissioner race, that is just what you apply to that job. You apply that work ethic and you apply that commitment to that job. And you don't miss meetings. I know on the school board, you know, that we just never miss meetings, and you just don't, because you have a commitment. You have an obligation to the taxpayers of Elmore County to be there and do that job. I think it's very important that you are there and doing that job. As for attending meetings prior, at this point, I'm just focused on business and my business and how that works. We do have a multi-generational family business, and that has to keep running too, as well as this. So it's a time balance right now, and I thank you for that question.
Thank you, Kelly. Ren Fernandez.
Thank you. I haven't attended any of the county commissioner meetings, but I've attended the Mountain Home City Council meetings. I've gone to the Republican committee meetings. I've met with the mayor of Mountain Home. I've met with the EMS director of emergency services, and I will be going to the city council meetings for Mountain Home and Glennsbury tomorrow. I've been really trying to go out and see what needs to be done with the people who need the issues resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ren. Leslie Hammer.
Yes, I have. I've been to about 4 of them. I'm not a politician, so I wanted to do some learning before I went into this. I did go with a concern at first. It's probably about a month and a half ago, and that's when I saw how things were working. I think I can make a difference. I am serving the public now, being in the hospital for over 45 years. I see concerns, I hear concerns, and I know concerns. And I have met with the mayor myself. I've met with the sheriff. I've met with city councilmen. I've been to the city council meetings. I've been to the Glennsbury city council meetings. I'm trying. It's a lot to intake. I work full time, and it's just that's a goal that I want to do. I want to be better. I want to have knowledge and serve the county. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Now for county clerk candidates. Our same attendee asked, but for you guys, For your intended role, what have you done in the last few months to prepare and gain knowledge for your role as county clerk? First up, Hillary Rodden.
Well, seeing as how I was an election specialist and a deputy recorder at one point in time, I've always kept up on my training. I like to read the news releases that are coming out about the elections and everything that's going to be changing or any concerns that people have. I also like to keep up on my ICRIM training, which helps me gain the knowledge on how to deal with the community around me and my other employees.
Thank you, Hillary. Next up, Becky Garvey.
I have been dealing with this for 4 years on my city council role, and I've been listening, I've been watching, and I've been interacting. And the last several months, I spoke to several county employees, asking them questions, trying to understand some of the topics, some of the issues that they may have as an employee of the courthouse in the county. I cannot say that I know the day-to-day operations, but I can tell you I'm pretty sharp and I can probably learn pretty quick. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to say I need help. So from that regard, and I also, building relationships is something that I do well, and I'm not, I don't feel that there would be a concern with working with any one of these ladies that do a great job at the county so that we can make this position great. I am planning on attending some county commissioner meetings coming up. I took 18 credits this last semester, so I was a little bit inundated with that, and I also own several businesses. So I will be there. Those county commissioners aren't going to get rid of me that fast. So yes, thank you guys for that question.
And of course, Julie Kennedy.
So what I've been doing to prepare myself for county clerk is actually 11 years in the making. Like I said, I have held in master positions. I have trained my successors. So I am also training with the current clerk with different, last year I sat with her to prepare the budget and sat through all of the budget hearings. That's part of my position anyways, is to prepare the budget, but I got to see the backside of the budget as far as what happens after I'm done with it. I make sure that I keep good working relationships with the other departments that I would be working with, as well as within my department as well. So that's about all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. This next question is directly for our Elmore County Commissioners. For Mount Home City Councilman Scott Harjo, he wrote that himself, I'm calling him out. December 2024, the Elmore County Board of Commissioners chose to terminate the cooperative agreement with the City of Mountain Home for dispatch services. This leaves a potential for immense negative impact to public safety of nearly 18,000 residents within our city. Despite multiple discussions internally and jointly between county commissioners and city council since early 2025, a new agreement has not been instated. As a new county commissioner, will you immediately work to reinstate a dispatch agreement, and what ideas can you offer for a contract? I'll repeat that in a shorter, quicker sense. But thanks for we need background. We do need background for those that don't watch city council meetings. Moral of the story, December 2024, dispatch services agreement was discontinued between Elmore County and the City of Mountain Home. They've tried to create a new agreement, and since early 2025, nothing has been created. What would you do as a new county commissioner to get that agreement started? And would you immediately work to reinstate that? First up, I would like to welcome up Leslie Hammer.
Thank you. That is a good question. I've heard a little bit about that. So my first, yes, I would, number one. But I would try, we can agree to disagree, but at the end we have to have a solution. And that the dispatch is very, very, very important. I feel that we need just one, and we can bring our funds together and get one great dispatch. And if we can agree, then, or hear the negative or the positive and put them together and figure out what we can do. But yes, we do need a good one dispatch for our whole county. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Hammer. Kelly Riggs.
Thank you. First and foremost, it kind of goes back to what I said in my opening remarks, that you don't know the whole story. You can't know both sides of the issue unless you're involved in the issue. And the only way you can be involved is run for a seat or put yourself in a position where you're in a place that you can make those decisions. I think it's very important that first and foremost, taxpayers in Elmore County come first. If these decisions are being made and taxpayers of Elmore County are being hurt because of these decisions, then it's probably a communication issue. The lines of communication have to be open. There has to be an agreement worked out that benefits the taxpayers of Elmore County and the citizens of this county. And so it's hard to speak to that issue because I don't know the whole story, and I won't know until you get involved, sit through the meetings, hear both sides of the issue, sit down with the city, sit down with the county commissioners that are there, and learn the whole story. But yes, it's very important that something like that happens to benefit the taxpayers of Elmore County.
Thank you, Kelly. Ren Hernandez.
Thank you. I definitely think it's important that we have an agreement between county and city for dispatch. It's very near and dear to my heart. My husband is a volunteer firefighter. I've met with the mayor. We've talked a little bit about the issue, and I've met with Alan Roberts and we talked about the issue. I would like to be that bridge that gaps that and try to get some kind of solution. We have to be able to work together. What benefits the city, benefits the county. We all have the same goal, so we all need to work together.
Okay. I only have a few questions up here, and we have them on the hook for 20 more minutes. So, anyone have any questions? Please raise your hand, or find Sam and Ashlyn in the back and get those questions written down. We'll have some fun. So, first off, or next up, from Rod Dudley, it looks like to all candidates, what do you feel you can do to bring an old-fashioned feeling to, I'm so sorry, I did this, to the shower community? To the greater community? Okay, we're going to do this from the top. I did prove it, and then I did a whole thing, I went off the cuff, that's on me. To all the candidates, what do you feel that you can do to bring an old-fashioned feeling to the greater of the community? Let's start with our county clerks. Hillary Ryan.
Really not sure what you mean by an old-time feeling. But just provide great customer service. Whenever you walk into the building, you need to feel like you're being heard, like you've been there before, like you're part of the family. And that's pretty much it.
Next up, Julie Kennedy.
Well, I'm from the South, so Southern charm is pretty deep with me. So, like Hillary said, make sure that everybody feels welcomed and heard, and that we treat everybody with dignity and respect, no matter why they are here or in our office. Make sure that their concerns are handled with compassion. Make sure that when they're in there that they feel like they are valued and that they are taken care of and that we are taking them seriously. And that we do everything that we can to make sure that they leave there feeling that they have been helped and that they don't have, that they don't feel like they're devalued. Thank you.
And Becky Garvey.
How would I know that Rob would ask a question like this? An old-fashioned community. I think we live in a wonderful community. One thing that I did not mention in my opening statement is I've lived in Mountain Home, Idaho my entire life. I was born and raised in an old hospital on Mountain Home Air Force Base. So I think our community is like no other. People are friendly, people say hi, people truly enjoy to see other people's company, and so I like to foster that relationship. I think that is also extended in the county, for sure. People need to feel welcomed, and they need to feel like they're not a burden when they're coming in to ask their very serious questions, whether it be about their taxes or their taxes that are due, and so that is definitely something that I would like to see, maybe a little bit of improvement. I'm sorry I have to say a little bit, but otherwise our community is wonderful. Old-fashioned, I don't know. I think that could be up for question what that means, but anyway, thank you.
We want the courthouse to be where everyone knows your name.
Yeah. Cheers.
Okay, Elmore County Commissioner candidates. What would you do to give more of an old-fashioned feel to the way we do things in the county? We're going to start with Ren Hernandez.
One thing I talked to some people about is starting to do some community events and fundraisers for Sheriff's Department, EMTs, Fire Department, and I think that's a great way for the community to come together, get to know each other so that your neighbors feel like your neighbors. And I think one thing that the country is missing is human decency to each other, and I think we really need to bring that back and really get along as a community.
Thank you, Ren. Leslie Hammer.
Well, I remember when things were simpler in high school. I was going to say in one of my little deals that all of our family graduated. There's a lot of us that graduated from Mountain Home High School. And we used to go to the football games. We used to go to the basketball games and see friends. And it would be great to do that again. And I think the county and the city can uplift that a little bit with communication, showing that they want to be a partner, bring the community involved, and I think a little tug of war might be kind of fun. You know, dodgeball, I don't know, but it's, you know, we have our reunions, and you get people together, and you have a lot of memories. And I think that's fun. And I think town hall meetings are great. It doesn't always have to be negative. Communication, I think, is our biggest friend, and transparency. So, thank you.
And Kelly Riggs.
Leslie Hemmerich said dodgeball. Did anybody else get the feeling of that hard rubber ball? I did. I think out in the country we deal with a rural mindset, and that you see your neighbor on the road, you stop, you remember you got something to ask them, so you stop on the road and you talk for 15 or 20 minutes, and people drive by and they're your neighbors. They don't want to talk to you, so they wave and keep on going. I think it doesn't matter if you live in the country or if you live in town. Elmore County has a rural mindset. And that is treat people decent. When the electrician or the plumber comes into your house, they treat you like they're your friend. And because they've been recommended by a friend or you know them and they truly are your friend. I think that pace is something that Elmore County has and hasn't lost. It does make us a little old-fashioned in that we're not in a big hurry to get things done. We're not tied up in the hustle and bustle of Boise or Ada County. So yes, we can keep promoting that, and that's very important that we keep promoting that rural mindset at the football games and basketball games and meeting with your neighbors and not being afraid to stop and say hi and how's your family and stuff like that. So I think that's important, and I think we already do that to some degree. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a few more questions, but while I organize these questions, I'm going to play a fun little game on how well you know the county you're running for. More importantly, how well do you know the employees that you're running for? So we're going to actually make this question a 1-minute response. So Sophia could change the time on the answer to 1 minute. To our county commissioners, how many people work in the pest abatement department and what do they do? First up, I'd like to welcome up Brent Hernandez.
Great, well, I don't know how many people are going to estimate it. But I do know it would be, you have a problem with rodents, you have a problem with termites, you have a problem with bees. I would figure that's what they would take care of. Thank you.
And Leslie Hammer.
Well, I have to say, I thank them every year because we have no more mosquitoes. My goodness. But I don't know how many work. When I do see them out, there's 2. So that's my guess.
And Kelly Riggs.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. You see 2, and they're out, and they're killing mosquitoes, so I know they do that. I don't know what else they do, but I'd go with 2. And
well, I can tell you, unless I need to be fact checked, I believe it is 2 in the pest abatement world, and they do cut off our mosquitoes for us all summer long. Cover the entire Elmore County, so keep that in mind when you are looking at mosquitoes and you're really annoyed to come to your area. They cover the entire county. That's from us up to Pine Feather Hill, out to King Hill. Okay, I guess we'll make it more serious. To our county clerks. This question comes from Ted. How will you ensure all elections are correctly accounted for and in a timely manner? First up, I'd like to welcome up Julie Kennedy. So sorry. The question again is, how will you ensure all elections are correctly accounted for and done in a timely manner?
Okay, so we currently do that as we speak. So essentially, when we start running an election and we conduct an election, there is a process and there's a timeline that we have to keep, and it comes down from the Secretary of State's office. We currently make sure that all of the ballots are secured. We always kind of keep 2 people with the ballots at all times. The ballots are under lock and key, and there is a camera on it 24/7. When we start early voting, there's usually 2 people in the room with it, and then after the voter gets done voting, they will turn around and they will stick that voted ballot into a machine that will essentially count the ballot, so we will never touch that machine. When everything is all said and done, once the ballots are counted at the end of the night, because our commissioners meet on a Friday, we have a very tight turnaround to conduct our canvass. We only have 3 days to conduct our canvass within the deadline. So the sheriff comes the next day and counts our ballots right away. So we don't have access to them once they have been counted. They are now in the possession of the sheriff. And then once that happens, we start on the canvass process, and then the county commissioners that Friday will canvass the election, and then we are done, and we'll start breaking down the election and get ready for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Becky Garvey.
Election integrity is number one. It is talked about all over the place, all over the United States. So, first of all, I know that as a clerk or as any position really, we all have to adhere to state statutes that mandate us on time frames, when early voting starts, all those things. Those are all things that we must adhere to. It's not a timeline that we can just fluff or move or anything like that. So just adherence to those timelines, making sure that all the votes are counted. I know we had a mishap this year, and to see that does not ever happen again, because that really leads to questioning our county, and we don't want to have that in our future, because every vote matters. They have to be counted, and they have to be counted on time. And so, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Becky. And Hillary Rodden.
So everybody's heard of the 2025 election, right? The election heard around the world in the middle of the move. So the first thing I would probably do is make sure that all of our machines have been maintained properly, and after they have been maintained properly, we do not move them. They stay in that area. Next, I would probably say following our state statutes to a T. Like, I believe it was Julie mentioned, our commissioners meet on a Friday, so we do have to have the election canvassed very quickly. In order to do that, all of our staff has to be trained properly on how to run the programs, how to calculate on the programs that we use, and get that information to the people, to the public, honestly, because you guys want to know as soon as we do who won the election. And that's it.
Okay. Next question is for our county commissioners. And I'm going to combine 2 questions I've got here from Marty Beach and a Ted. And so hopefully I can combine it well and make this effective. Because shocking, it's about water. County commissioner candidates. What is your experience with water rights and recharging the aquifer? Additionally, do you have any other ideas for a best way to solve our water issues? Again, what's your experience with water rights and recharging our aquifer? Do you have any additional ideas to solve our water issues? For county commissioners, first I'd like to welcome up Leslie Hammer.
Well, I went to a couple meetings with the county commissioners on these. It's very complex, and I think they are doing a phenomenal job as far as planning ahead. They already are talking that they have permits on the floodwaters of Anderson. They're trying to get permits on the water rights for
for the Snake River. Again, I've been to a couple meetings. I have a irrigation, or I have a feeder canal behind our property, and dealing with Calvin Island with, I shouldn't have probably said his name, sorry, with the irrigation department. There was a hole in, our well was contaminated. There was a hole in the canal, and you know, you try to be a good citizen, and you go and tell them that, you know, I think the canal is putting it was E. coli, so it was contaminated, and they just look at you and say, no, it's not that. So I think, thank goodness now, I think times have changed where we have proactively with the new people that that are doing the irrigating and irrigation tunnels and fixing them, and I think that's a great start. So, but I don't really know a lot about the water. Again, I've been to a couple meetings and they are being proactive. So hands up to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Kelly Riggs.
Thank you. Yeah, I know a little bit about water. I know that the county commissioners are working really hard to procure water rights. They have put together water rights out of the proposed Anderson Ranch raising. They have water rights out of Anderson Ranch now. They do have water rights out of the Snake River. One thing I know about water rights is they're very specific. They have priority dates, and you can't use a water right out of priority date. If my priority date is 1900 and your priority date is 1920, and there's enough water coming down for mine or yours, I'm first. So that comes into play with the water rights that the Mountain Home or the Elmo County Commissioners have gotten. I also know that the aquifer regeneration, they've done a lot of great work. There's a fine line between regenerating the aquifer and contaminating wells. And it takes years and years of steady, constant water dumped into a cone of influence that will actually regenerate that aquifer. So you can regenerate the aquifer north of Mountain Home. It's in a different cone of influence as the aquifer in Glens Ferry, that serves Glens Ferry. So it's very area specific. So there's issues with water that it's very complicated, and you have to be involved and you have to know all the information to make those decisions. But the Elmo County Commissioners are moving in a really, really positive direction.
Okay, Ren Hernandez.
This is actually my main priority, and one of the biggest reasons why I was running. I've done a ton of research on recharging aquifers and the dam raise, and how much preliminary water rights that Mountain or the Elmore County actually has out of that Anderson Dam raise. And there are a lot of hoops to get through to make sure that that does happen. It's not just a given. Myself and my husband drove around multiple times looking at the retention ponds for recharging the aquifer, and they're low. And so we need to find ways to recharge them better, if that's trying to raise some of those retention ponds, or see if we can get retention ponds in better areas where it will recharge faster. But it is a huge problem, and it is one of my biggest priorities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. And now that we've reached the 7 o'clock hour, we'll go into closing statements. Since we started with our county clerks, we'll give you guys a breather, and we're going to start with our commissioners. So for a 2-minute closing statement to tell us all why we should vote for you on May 19th, I'd like to welcome up first Kelly Riggs.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier that I was on the the Glen Ferry School District, and as chairman there. I also serve on the Forest Practices Act Committee. That's an Idaho Land Board committee that oversees logging and waterways in Idaho. So I know how important the water issue is in Idaho because of the work that board puts into preserving streams. Also a proud Mason and Shriner. We do a lot for our communities, and I think that's very important, that a person's involved in their communities. They help out their communities as much as they can. I guess my issues with closing is that kind of means that I'm done with you guys, and I hope to be not done with you guys. I hope to serve the taxpayers of Elmore County as the Elmore County Commissioner. And I hope to bring my expertise of water rights, land use issues, contracts and stuff like that. I realize Elmore County faces a uphill battle with balancing industry to bring in families and balancing water use. And there's a lot of issues out there that, a lot of companies out there that reuse water, a lot of technology out there that helps us use our water better. I think that's going to be very important for Elmore County moving forward. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Ren Hernandez.
Thank you. In closing, I just want to say that I do believe that the person in this position is going to need a very diverse background of experience in budgeting, knowing construction, knowing contracts, knowing how to work with local and state government, knowing how to do the research of the water, and being able to deal with everyone in the community and make sure everyone is heard. Whether we make decisions that you like or not, we still have to hear you. And we have to make sure that it is run like a business and a community at the same time. Thank you.
Now, Leslie Hammer.
So like I said, I've worked at the hospital for 40 plus years. I have dealt and served the community for those many years. The nice thing about working in a hospital is you have the opportunity to deal with people, with patients, providers, staff, insurance companies, all sorts. And there are lots of solving problems that I have done. I've done investigating myself, gotten some dealings with the conflicted resolutions. People are very angry. You can calm them down. You can try to meet them in the middle. I have my own budget at home. My husband and I do a great budget. I'm hardworking. I would love to have this position. I'm honest, and 90% of what the commissioners do are what I do on a daily basis, and I've done it for 45 plus years. I have also saved the hospital money, but my focus is to ensure that our county is self-reliant, safe, successful, thrives. With the infrastructure that is going on, our agriculture is very, very important to me. Water is very important. Business owners, growth, and of course our taxpayers. It's a pleasure that I'm running. It would be an honor to win. So I thank you.
let you off the hook unless they catch you outside. Next up, I'd like to hear closing statements from our Elmore County clerk candidates. Let's start with Hillary Rodden.
I just want to say thank you guys for coming tonight and listening to all of us give our little spiels. Honesty, integrity, and commitment. That's how I plan to lead Elmore County if I should get Elmore County clerk. I enjoy working with every single one of you. I have so many familiar faces after working the elections. That is something near and dear to my heart, the integrity of the elections, and I plan on sprucing up that process, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. Julie Kennedy.
So again, thank you guys for coming out tonight and listening to us. I really appreciate it. I feel that I would be the best suited candidate. I've worked for the county for 11 years. I've worked in court. I understand how court works. I understand how elections work. I understand budgets, being the comptroller. So I am very community oriented. I spend a lot of my time volunteering. I am an elk, believe it or not. So I spend a lot of my time giving back to the community, and I would put my all into this position. So I'm asking for your vote because I will do the job with accuracy, integrity, and transparency. Thank you.
Okay, and Becky Garvey.
Thank you all for the thoughtful questions tonight and the opportunity to speak with you all this evening. I honestly had no idea what to expect, what kind of questions were going to be asked of a county clerk position, because we don't really legislate, and so this was very enlightening tonight. I didn't mention this earlier, but I firmly believe in my ability to learn, grow, and do this job well. One of my favorite sayings is, "Don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all." That mindset has guided me through my career and in my public service. I bring an extensive background in business ownership, accounting, and management. During my time on the council, we were responsible for preparing and managing a budget of $73 million. We worked to remain fiscally responsible while still meeting the needs of our department heads and community. So that is something I'm very familiar with. One of the questions that was asked, and I kind of threw this into my closing statement, was surrounding the dispatch agreement. That was a really trying time for us, and we still haven't resolved that yet. And it is vital for our county and our city to get along and to work together. I've built strong working relationships with both the city and county leaders, and I understand how important collaboration is to getting things done effectively. Something I'm very proud of right now, I went back to school. I will be graduating from the University of Idaho this December with my bachelor's degree in business administration, and I've maintained a 3.8 GPA throughout my studies. It's been hard work, it's been great, but it's very rewarding. I would be honored to serve as Elmore County Clerk, and I'm eager to learn, and while I do not have the background of these amazing ladies, honestly I think that the county is really lucky to have these people up here running tonight, and I think everybody would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elmore County candidates. You guys are officially off. But feel free to catch them out in the halls. One more round of applause for them. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. So we'll be back at 7:20 to welcome up our state candidates. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started here. Everyone, please take their seats. Silence your cell phones. Stop for internet. We're going to have a quick question for our candidates.
Good. They'll just be a blur. And a blur.
Okay. Order. I'll start calling you out by name. Looking at you, Marjo. Mayor? I don't know your name, so I'll stop calling you out. Okay, let's get things started. In hopes that we can get everyone out of here at a decent time, because some of us have bedtimes, whether we like it or not. Let's get started with some opening statements. So before we get things started, I do want to say a few things. We obviously have some current elected officials with us. I will take a moment to recognize those current elected officials up with us, but as we go through the questions, I will be referring to them just plainly as name. But for just a quick moment, I would like to recognize current State Senator Christy Zitto. As well as current Representative District 8 Seat B, Faye Thompson. And current seated Representative District 8 Seat A, Rob Beiser. From this point forward, there is Christy, Rob, and Faye. Just for ease of access, sorry. Okay, let's get started with some opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about them and why we should vote for them on May 19th. We're going to get started on the representative side. So, candidate Sean Hall.
Hi, my name is Sean Hall, candidate for District 8, Seat A. Thank you all for being here this evening, and thanks to the Mountain Home Chamber for inviting me to this event. As I was thinking about what to say in a business event like this, I found myself reflecting on my very first job. Like a certain well-known figure, I too once worked at McDonald's. And yes, I too was once a fry cook at McDonald's. Kidding aside, it was my first job. I was 14 years old. Since then, I ended a career in business and spent the majority of my career working in for-profit businesses, both small and large organizations. Recently, in recognition of our 250-year anniversary, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas spoke to university students reciting the preamble to the Constitution. Hearing it struck me. As representatives, it's important we continually remind ourselves we're here to uphold these truths with devotion on behalf of the people we represent. So I hope you won't mind if I take the opportunity to read the preamble as given by Justice Thomas, and I quote, "We are all equally created in the image and likeness of God. We are all endowed with natural rights to life, liberty, and happiness. Our rights and our dignity are inherent. They do not come from others, and they do not come from the government. Our government derives its legitimacy and its authority from our consent. All our government's authority comes from our consent," end quote. So as we engage in tonight's forum, I hope these truths will inspire and direct our discussion. Thank you again, and I look forward to tonight's forum.
Thank you. And Rob Beiser.
You had
yeah, Rob Fleischner, State Rep District 8A. And first of all, I want to thank you both for being here, but also for your votes last time around. It's been really a thrill and honor of my life to take, this seat and represent you guys. I've been with my family, I moved in here in 2019, before the dark times, right, before the crazy times. And then we rented a house, we weren't sure, the time we were going to live here permanently. We were trying to go into some family struggles, and we moved into Horseshoe Bend and the following summer. And, with all the COVID nonsense and the masks and the vaccine mandates and requirements, pushing and shaming on it, kind of looked around the country, like, well, where do I want to raise my family? 2 daughters, they're homeschooled by my wife, and we definitely want a place we could do that, right? And, the scenery gets you to Idaho, right? The mountains and the rivers and the hot springs and the skiing, right? All this amazing stuff. You don't have much of that in Indianapolis, where it was before that, but the people is what keeps you here, right? It's the values here, the people here. We talk about rural values, but really it's about our faith, right? Our freedoms, our family, hard work, personal responsibility. Those are the kinds of values I want to have around my kids and keep my family here. And since being elected, though, I've made it a goal to fight for those kinds of values at the State House, lower taxes and individual responsibilities. And also, I just want to make myself accessible to you guys. I try it's hard to represent 4 counties, and thousands of people across hundreds of miles, but I try to respond to text messages and emails, and, I know Samantha finds me at the State House here and there to, lobby me on healthcare issues. And some other guys too, I just encourage you to do that. There's something here that's going on, the job is kind of a customer service and networking job, right? Some of you're relaying to people. I don't know all the information, but I've gotten pretty good, I think, after the years. My wife will back me up on this one, which tells you it's legit. I'm pretty good at finding the right people who you can listen to and who you can trust to help make that kind of decision. So I hope we're here for you.
Continuing on with other candidates, Brian Jeffrey.
Thank you. I'm Brian Jeffrey, and I'm running for representative for CP. So I live in Hammond, Idaho, just east of here. Glenn's Ferry we own a small business, several small businesses. We own, we also work on our father's cattle ranch, father-in-law's cattle ranch, so ranching. I love the outdoors. I'm a hunter, fisherman. That's Idaho. I'm a 6th generation Idahoan. Family grew up in eastern Idaho. It's one of those things that just Idaho and the love of Idaho and the outdoors and that ability to actually get out and enjoy hunting, fishing, archery season, that kind of fun stuff. It's just all good fun stuff. And I have my wife Tracy back there and married, and we have 6 kids. And that's why I'm running for representative. We have to have a representative that represents the people of District 8, people of Mountain Home. We have somebody that actually stands up for the freedoms that we all value. We need an Idaho that I grew up with, and I want to fight to make sure that we have an Idaho that my kids will have that's similar to what we have today. We need to keep fighting for them. We need to keep fighting for our freedoms. And in order to do that, we have to have representation. We need to get local control back to the citizens, and we need to work hard with our county commissioners, with our citizens, with the constituents, with our mayors, and the sheriffs. We have to work with people. And that's what I want to be. I want to be that representative in District 8 that represents rural Idaho, Mountain Home, and gets it back to local control. Thank you.
And Dave Foster.
Thank you for being on the meeting tonight and answering your questions if we can. And thank you to the Chamber for organizing this. I originally began to run with an idea because I saw that our district is culturally and economically so different between the 4 counties. And we did not have balanced representation throughout the entire district. And so that's why I put my name in there. I've lived in Valley County for 50 years, so I'm familiar with logging and mining and recreation, and I'm learning a lot about agriculture, but there's the two differences in the district that we have. And so having this balanced representation, which you have now, has been a very good thing for Mountain Home, for Elmer County, and for the other 3 counties that we represent. I have been in public service, not as a job, but volunteering my entire adult life, starting with law enforcement and in my church. I was on staff at my church for about 12 years before I retired and then did this. And also with food banks in my local community. And also I was chair of the Valley County Central Committee for several years. So I've had a servant's heart my whole life. I had a rough childhood and was homeless a lot of the time. And so I learned so much about people and about how good they can be and what they can do. So my hope is that I can continue to serve you as your representative in Boise, and not only just for our great district, but as well as our state. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for our representatives. Now let's move on to our senators. Candidates for Idaho Senator. First, I'd like to welcome up Terry Gestrin.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event and for the Elks for allowing us to use this facility. I don't bring this up because I don't know who I am. I bring this up to explain. My name is correct, my picture is correct, that stand-up was correct. So I'll explain to you who I am and where I'm from. I'm 5th generation Idaho, was born and raised in Valley County. In fact, all my ancestors were in Valley County the whole time. I have a feed store there in Donley that was actually started 72 years ago by my father. It's evolved and changed over time, but so has our communities. We don't have the agriculture we used to have. We don't have people tilling the ground. We have, oh, that's right, our sawmills left too. Anyway, more about myself. I was helped create the Donley Fire Department. I was fireman and EMT for 20 years. I was a chief for 12 years. I was a county commissioner and I have very extensive knowledge in local government and property taxes. And I'm used to what the state can do to make things hard on local government. So I try to do my best to make it so local government can function, because you heard from the people here already who really affect your lives. They're the ones here, local, on the ground, that make things happen. Then I went and served for 10 years in the Idaho legislature in the House, and then we had redistricting, that kind of changed the picture. So, anyway, again, I would like to be your senator from District 8, and my cell phone is always available if anybody wants to contact me, and you'll hear more from us as time goes on here. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Terry. Christine Widow.
Thank you very much. And I would prefer to be called Christy anyway, so that's perfect. I think the greatest thing in my life I've ever done is to be a mom and a grandma. The second greatest thing I've ever done in my life is to represent the people of the state of Idaho in the legislature. I served you 4 years in the House of Representatives, and I served you 4 years in the Senate. It would be a great honor for me to serve you 4 years again. In my time in the legislature, I helped secure constitutional carry for the state of Idaho. I was the first person to bring legislation into Idaho to protect our children from transgender surgeries and mutilations until they were old enough to make those decisions on their own. I carried legislation to protect our unborn, and the list goes on. But I want you to know that more than anything else, I have answered the phone. I served during COVID, and I would spend hours on the phone in the middle of the night with people while they would cry and their hearts were being ripped out because their loved ones were dying in hospitals and nursing homes, and they couldn't go see them.
I spoke with young mothers whose husbands had threatened to take their own lives because they didn't know how they were going to continue to take care of their families when we all feel like the world was falling apart around us. I want you to know that I honor and respect and love each and every one of you. We might not always agree politically. We might not always agree 80%, but I love and I respect you because of who you are. All men are created equal, and all men are endowed with unalienable rights bestowed upon us by our Creator. And as your senator, your legislator in Boise, it's my job to make sure that those rights are protected above everything else. You have the right to be free. You have the right to make your own decisions. You have the right to be stupid at some point, sometimes, as long as you don't infringe on someone else's constitutional rights. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Chamber for putting this on. And God bless you all.
Now, Megan Blaisdell.
Well, it's nice to see my neighbors and friendly faces around here. I guess you'll find out sooner or later. I'm Megan Blaisdell. We farm down in the Hammett Valley. I'm there with my husband and his brother. There's 2 kids here. They both went to Linsbury and Mountain Home schools for various reasons. So I'm a big fan of school choice because then you have those options, and we took advantage of it. I served 8 years in the House and successfully passed a lot of legislation directly for our rural communities. In fact, one of them, Christy Zito just brought up, and that was the visitation law, so that if you did have someone in the hospital with COVID, that you could go visit them. That was a really important piece that we passed, and I carried that bill. But I think what we're losing sight of, and I have real concerns about it, especially as you're listening to your commissioners talk about water, which has also been a huge issue, and I carried the bill that put the Anderson Dam raise and the Air Force pipeline. Those went to the top of the list from legislation I carried for IDWR. So I understand that these are some serious things. But as I'm listening to what's going on, I think people need to understand that within the next year or two, 50 plus 1% of the population is going to be in only 3 counties. It's going to be in Ada, Canyon, and Kootenai. That's it. That's where the majority of the voting population is going to be. So you need really strong representation out here in rural Idaho. And what I've seen over the last 2 years isn't that. And that's what motivated me to run again. Is because you need someone who's actually listening to your issues, not what people in Boise are telling them they should be doing. And so that's my commitment. That was my commitment in the past, and that would be my commitment in the future. We really need to take care of our rural communities.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, let's get some questions. Our first question is for all the candidates, and it is from a Carol. We're going to start off with our representatives. The question is, let me think about this. Okay, sorry. What do you think is your best accomplishment so far? And if you are in legislature, what did you accomplish in the legislature? If you are not, what are you hoping will become your best accomplishment? Starting off with our representatives, let's start off with Rob.
So yeah, first term in, didn't know what you get going in there, right? You learn the lay of the land. But one thing I promised my campaign, across District 8, was I was going to fight for our health freedoms and to oppose all mask and vaccine mandates. And so that's what I did. I had bills to deal with that, and also we took what became known as the Medical Freedom Act. And this bill, and now act, says that nobody can be required to take any kind of medication at the cost of getting a job. There's a few exceptions to that, but we also, like, for schools and daycare, say, the law typically says you have to take a vaccine, but then you can be exempted for any reason, right? You can be exempted for religious, philosophical, or so forth. But became a big fight. On the back of COVID, there are people who think that you should be required to take medication, and you should have your medical records exposed as a condition of employment or access to public facility. And so I got it into the House and started lobbying the Health and Welfare Committee. We got it passed there on a 9-5 vote. Then we got it to the full House. And we passed it there. I think it was like 47-23. Republicans voted 3-1 in favor, and so really a minority of Republicans joined the Democrats in opposing it, and we put it on the governor's desk. The governor sat on it for a week, and then he called the Senate sponsor and said, well, I like the bill overall, I got some problems with it, and he vetoed it. It was the only bill he vetoed last year. And I think it was a mistake. I just actually was on the reporter a few days ago talking about it. And the governor's request kind of came back. He was really feeling the heat, right? The people were calling and saying, we want this bill. People should not have to do this at the cost of their job. I mean, it was the most intense issue we had out there last year or this year, I'd say, quite frankly. And so we ran the bill again. We put some modifications in it. Really didn't give away anything. Just kind of help people realize that this bill didn't have some unintended consequences they were thinking of. There's other code that dealt with some other issues there. So we rallied the people again. The House and Senate both got together and said, we're going to push this. This is what the people want. People probably don't expect to be treated, that their medical decisions be private. And so we put the bill back on his desk a week or so later, and he signed it, and Idaho became the first state in the nation to have a medical freedom law.
Next up is Sean.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot of things. Patented a few items. My last large major employer, I implemented a software system that managed about $2 billion in business. That was a major battle. It was a very large organization, actually larger than the state of Idaho's budget. A lot of internal challenges there. At the end of that, the CEO of that corporation called me a superstar. That was one, but there's been many other things too. In particular, in deciding to run for this position, the opportunity presented itself, and I've always had a passion for politics. And I'm not here to pat myself on the back, but it's been a challenge. I've learned a lot. I'm looking forward to talking about this medical freedom bill. It's a great topic. It's got serious issues. I never would have pushed that forward because it really does nothing for you, its citizen. There's a few carve-outs and things like Swiss cheese. Unless required by federal law is in there 3 times. So unless the federal law says you don't need to be vaccinated, and they decide you need to be vaccinated, you're going to have to be vaccinated. That's a major problem. I would have stopped on that bill. So I will fight for you guys when issues like that come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's move on to Faith.
For me, the last 2 years have been very interesting with bills. Last year I had 2, and then I ended up killing both of them. One was going to cost the taxpayers more money than it was intended, and so that was not my desire at all. I definitely didn't want to do that, and that actually ended up leading to a budget bill that I was able to kill on the floor because of Department of Education asked, but that's another story. The other bill would put the 10 Commandments in schools, and there were so many threats of lawsuits. That too was not my intention, to cost the taxpayer money in legal fees. So I killed that bill. It may come back. This year I had a bill that dealt with hospital taxi districts. Mostly it was just changing the language that made it easier for county clerks to verify signatures. That's all it was. Passed unanimously out of the House, died in the Senate committee. And in state affairs, that senator that likes to draw bills. So my greatest accomplishment has to be my voting record. I have voted conservatively, I have voted the Constitution, and I have received awards because of my voting record. And I'm very proud of that. Anybody can go on and look at my voting record. That is a great accomplishment because it is a true, honest, conservative voting record. Thank you.
Thank you. And last up on the representative side, Brian.
Thank you. I would say my greatest accomplishment is snagging that lady over there, Tracy. We'll be serious here for a second. Honestly, I was on the Idaho Parks and Rec board, and I served as the chairperson for 4 years. And that was one of the funnest things that I've got to do. A little bit of history, 150 million when I got on, they had in backlog of maintenance. And think about Idaho Parks and Recreation. They are a dedicated fund agency primarily, meaning that the money they generate, from camping fees, from fees, they get to spend, so it's like a quasi-business. I would say that the work that we did there to get rid of that $150 million of backlog of maintenance and repairs that needed to be done across the state was something that I was really proud of. I will say that my opponent actually voted against their budget this year, even though it's dedicated funds, kind of difficult to actually run your agency, dedicated funds agency when you don't have support, but it did pass, which is great. So, which was fantastic. So, but yeah, I'd say Idaho Parks and Rec and actually be the chair of that. That was fantastic.
Moving on to our senators. Again, the question was, what do you find as your biggest accomplishment? And if elected, what do you hope becomes an accomplishment? First up, Christy Siddle.
Things that happen at the state house, it's hard to say which would be your greatest accomplishment, but I'm going to assume that that's what you want to know about. So I would say the greatest accomplishment I had was to finish our constitutional carries. Our rights are granted to us by our Creator, and it's our job to protect them. But I think the greatest, when I look at my legislative career, I think the thing I feel the most satisfied with is I have stayed consistent. I vote the same today as I did the very first day I went there. And that's not an easy thing, because you get into that building and it's all about the power. And it's all about a chairmanship, and it's all about climbing the social ladder, and this position and that position. But my position is to be your advocate, to be your lobbyist, so to speak, not to be influenced by the 400 or so other lobbyists that actually get paid there to influence what we do. I feel like my greatest accomplishment has been to remember who I work for and why I'm there and what's important. Who does legislation help? Who does that hurt? Is it constitutional? Then when you look at the issue of just because it's legal, is it moral? And there's so much that goes into it, and what are the unintended consequences of what we do? And there's so many things we could talk about when it comes to that. But I think remembering that the power lies with the people, and that I am there to be you, as if you are sitting in that seat. I try to answer the phone when you ring. In fact, today, I've never seen anything like it. People are worried about what's going on in our state. They're concerned. I put my phone number, my personal phone number, on every mailer I've done since 2016, every one. I think I got more phone calls this morning from people concerned about where we're headed, about their finances, about keeping their home. And in the last 2 years in the Senate, I have been a budget hawk. We could have saved the state close to $1 billion in 25 for the 26 appropriation year. What are you talking about? Thank you.
Next up, Carrie.
Thank you. Yeah. When I think back about all the different things that I have carried or accomplished, trying to come up with just one is a little difficult. When I started when I was a county commissioner, and I was involved in helping create the Secure Rules of Schools Act, which that time we called the Green White bill federally, which brought stability to our rural counties that relied on timber receipts. Now, Elmore County gets some timber receipts, but any of us that have vast swaths of public land always relied on the revenue off of public land for our counties and our schools. Well, today that's still going on. We actually thought it was only going to last for 6 years. We'll get back to longer than mine. That didn't happen. Well, I was in the Idaho legislature. I don't know how many of you had an ATV or an off-road vehicle, but I am the one that kept carrying that bill and got it so you can actually be on the state highway with those for a short period of time to go from trail to trail. And you don't have to be harassed about being out on the state highway. And we haven't had anybody had a problem with doing that. The ITV and their engineers, were tough to get around the first go around on that. So we just did it in the cities and kept expanding it out. So now you can actually be on the state highway up to a speed limit of 65 mile an hour for a 5 mile stretch. You pick the stretch. But then something far more important than that is getting funding, is securing funding to have the ability to monitor for aquatic invasive species. And today we had aquatic invasive species called quagga mussel down near Twin Falls. And we stood up the system whereby we had early detection rapid response, or that problem would be a lot worse today. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Next up, Megan.
Thank you. I'm proud of a lot of things that I did for the district when I was the representative. Like I said before, we had the project for the Anderson Dam raise. I have helped the commissioners in the past work with recharge. I think the two biggest issues we've got out here in Elmore County right now are water and our schools. And we need to support both. And I think where we're really failing right now is in an effort to secure school choice for the Treasure Valley, we've cut our rural schools programs. So I don't know if you've looked at it, but that $50 million tax credit that people want to say is school choice is only school choice if you have a school it applies to. There's only one school in the entire legislative district that it applies to, and it's K-8 here in Mountain Home. So if you live in Custer, in Valley, in Boise, you don't even have a qualifying school to use a tax credit. And that's what I'm talking about. We need strong rural representation. We need someone who understands rural schools and wants to actually fight for them. Because not only did we have this $50 million credit for folks in the Treasure Valley, they also cut our rural schools program. And I'm looking around and I know faces of people who raise their kids about the same time as mine, and we use some of these programs. They cut digital learning. So that means your online classes that you need to supplement your rural school programs when you can't find a French teacher. They cut the Ag Extension Office, which is our 4-H program, which is excellent supplemental for what you're doing in rural schools, teaches kids management skills. And then finally, they cut the career technical ed, think your FFA, think your welding classes, your small engines. And not only did they cut it once, but there was an opportunity to put that money back, and Senator Zito voted against that as well. So I think you really need to look at who's really representing rural interests, and I think I could be that person for you.
Thank you, Megan. This next question comes from Kelly Kennedy and is only for current elected officials. So this question will be asked of Faye Thompson, Rob Beiswinger, and Christy Zito. State departments are asked to cut 3 to 7% in their budgets in response to tax cuts that were issued in 2025. Even after they made those cuts, we still saw a deficit in the Idaho budget. Can you explain why Idaho's budget still saw the deficit for the first time in 4 years? First up, Faye Thompson.
It was a pretty easy question. We accepted the big, beautiful bill. And in doing that meant there were additional cuts to budgets. Well, during the budgeting process, a whole lot of the big, beautiful bill rescissions were put back into the budgets. So those cuts didn't actually happen. Even after we conformed to the big, beautiful bill. Also, there were increases, and my opponent mentioned that I voted against the Parks and Rec budget. Well, yes, they do have dedicated funds. That wasn't what we voted on. We voted on an over $18 million increase in their budget in a year that we needed to be doing cuts. So that is why we are over 2.5% increase in the budget this year. And it's a $14+ billion budget. We needed to make better cuts. I made a pledge to make those cuts. And I stuck to that pledge with my votes. And so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I think so, obviously, last year, the legislature enacted, across the board income taxes, divided by income, right? So that, we did about $250 million in tax cuts there. We also eliminated the income tax on veterans' income. We wanted veterans to be welcome to the state and, respect their services. We eliminated the income tax there. We also increased the sales tax credit for the grocery sales tax. So we increased that. That was all last year. And even when we left last year, we had over $400 billion, they call it on the bottom line. So basically, extra $400 million left over to handle with, unexpected, expenses, whether natural disasters, or this, that, and the other, right? So there's a lot of money left over there. And so, but really, if we'd done a little better job last year of keeping the budget in line, this year might have not seemed so painful. So we got to this year, and Trump enacted this big, beautiful bill, and there were tax cuts. And we can either agree to those tax cuts at the state level, or we cannot. So every Republican in the House at least, and probably in the Senate, voted to conform with those tax, cuts. And so there was a big drop in revenue. A lot of corporate income dropped, and the final part, like November, December last year, just plummeted. And also we were scrambling to find a way to make the budget balance, despite last year being relatively easy, right? And so the decisions were made, ultimately, was to cut budgets at the state, within the state agencies. K-12 funding was basically left untouched. Plus, I believe they added about $5 million for special ed funding. Also, there was some extra money was put towards reimbursing some of the prison costs that the state reimburses the counties. But other than that, we basically kept things at a standstill. But all these agencies had to undergo cuts there to make it happen. So the thing is, we're in an inflationary time, we're in uncertain economic times, certainly the war, oil prices, I mean, much gold and silver going up, right? There's a lot of turmoil going on right now. People's budgets are strained. They remind all those agencies, they think their budgets are tight, but our budgets are tight, right? We need to respect that we're taxpayers. The money they get comes out of our pockets.
Thank you, Rob. And now, Christina.
Okay. Several things reflect what you see when you look at how much we spend on our budget. Now, a couple of things that happened. What we saw this year was we saw the end of a lot of the COVID money. Most of the money that comes in through federal grants lasts about 5 years. So we saw the end of that. But the thing that did happen, that added to the bottom line of our budget, was the federal Big Beautiful Bill, part of the Big Beautiful Bill. There was what's called the Rural Health Transformation. And so when that money came in, that added to what looked like our budget, which it is, but it's federal money that comes in. It's our tax dollars from our feds. So there were a lot of different things that go into it. Every agency received their maintenance budget. Now we vote on maintenance budgets now, and then we have what we call enhancement budgets. I love the way we look at the budgets now. Every agency gets what they need to keep the lights on, do their jobs, no one's hurt. Then we have enhancement budgets where we can take a really hard look at, do they really need this? Is this something that this agency really needs? If not, vote against it. Does it add additional employees? Does it take federal money? Things like that. We need to look at structural budget reform. Now, I'd like to point out that when we talk about a cut that was made to digital learning, one of the things that happened with digital learning is it had expanded beyond its scope. So there was a policy bill that was passed that brought digital learning back into its scope. It removed digital learning for kids K through 5th grade. It left it for high schools and junior highs and middle schools. You can still take French, you can still take calculus in a rural school. I grew up rural. I have worked in the fields. I have picked more corn and tomatoes and peppers and onions, whole sugar beets, whole potatoes, all my life. That's what I've done. I don't just sit on a corporate farm. I don't just say I farm. I've actually had my hands in the dirt. I would never do anything to hurt rural Idaho. That's my heart, and that's where I live. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is for all of our candidates from Joanne Smith. How are you prepared to represent all Idahoans for the greater good, not just those who have religious belief and family values? Will you follow the First Amendment Establishment Clause for the separation of church and state? That was kind of lengthy. From the top, do you need me to repeat it?
No.
Solid, okay. First up, we're going to do, I forgot where we're at. We're going to start with Representatives Faye Thompson. How are you prepared to represent all Idahoans for the greater good, not just those who have religious belief and family values? And will you follow the First Amendment Establishment Clause for separation of church and state?
That last part is what got me. There is no such thing as a separation of church and state in our Constitution. The First Amendment is to prevent the government from forming a religion. And the idea, the church and state separation, happened to be in a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote as a commentary on the First Amendment. Of course, I do not violate the First Amendment. I believe that everybody has that choice to speak. That's why we have it. And we speak, we gather. We can do a lot of things under the First Amendment, and I do support it 100%. But let's please learn there is no separation of church and state in our Constitution.
Thank you, Faye. Brian Jeffrey.
Thank you. When we're looking at passing laws, or you're looking at these things, I'm gonna call it the 3 C's. And I'm gonna look to make sure that it's constitutional. And that you're protecting the First Amendment, just like you need to protect the Second Amendment, to protect the First Amendment. And then, is it good for my constituents? That's important. And then essentially, is it conservative? Does it fit your conservative principles? I think when you look at those 3 things, then I should get to fall in line with what that person's asking. I think that's your core value. Is it conservative? Is it follow the Constitution? And is it good for my constituents? I don't want to pledge to anybody but the constituents of District 8. And that's who's electing me. That's who my responsibility is, not anybody else. So, that's it.
Thank you. Next up, Rob.
We have some of the amendments to the Constitution, they're for everybody. Our government should treat us as individuals and not carve us up into groups or this and that, and right, so freedom of speech is for all of us. You have to be kind of having a blind eye for this. One of the things we wrestle with the legislature is, well, we have this rule, accept this, right, except for that. And so it's frustrating. You try to make things happen across the whole state. You have lots of different geography here. But absolutely, we need to honor our Constitution, not just the First Amendment, but we also got to respect that we have values here. There's certain morals we want to see, for our state, and certain behaviors that are unacceptable. And so other things we're going to draw a line on. But definitely want the government not to be coercing us into any kind of religious activity, and also respecting our freedom of speech. That's where, even if people say things that are uncomfortable, but those kinds of debates are important. With any kind of issue, one thing is, you hear people say, well, we can't talk about that. I'm like, well, that almost to me seems like we do need to talk about it. If you're saying we don't, it actually means we do need to talk about it. It's one of the things my wife and I struggle with our kids, like, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, well, now we have to, right? And it's the same, it's just a truism of life. And,
Thank you, Rob. Next up, Sean.
I'm glad they answered this question. The case they're referring to is Everson versus Board of Education, 1947, and that's been a huge stain on our society. The Supreme Court's not perfect, and that's an example of it. They twisted Thomas Jefferson's letter and turned it around. It's actually, the separation is of state from church, right? So that lie has been perpetrated throughout our society, and you've seen how it's affected our culture. Having said that, everyone has a right to free speech, and I respect that right, and I'll fight to uphold that right. Even speech I disagree with, right? That's oftentimes the most important speech. So, having said that, the First Amendment is our very most important amendment. We need to work on the other amendments, particularly the 10th Amendment, right? The state of Idaho needs to establish itself as a state per the 10th Amendment. But for First Amendment, that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Now moving on to our candidates for state senator. First up, Megan Winston.
Thank you. I think you have a very serious responsibility to abide by the Constitution, and that's what you swear to when you get sworn into office. So you promise to abide by not only the state constitution, but also the national constitution, and you should be bound by your oath. And people should have the freedom to speak. It doesn't have to be mean speech. I prefer we were much more civil as of late. It doesn't feel good sometimes, but your right to speech is protected. That's constitutional. And I think that this is also a point where I would also say there's only so many responsibilities that legislators have, and you only have 2 constitutional responsibilities, honestly, 2, in the state of Idaho. One is to balance the budget, which has been a miserable failure over the last 2 years, and 2 is to review the agency rules to make sure that they're compliant with what the law is. And then follow the United States Constitution, of course, hangs over everything. So I think that when you're looking at your candidates for office, you might want to also keep that in mind. Those are the responsibilities. They aren't necessarily to decide, a lot of social mores, but your 2 base responsibilities are balance the budget and review the rules. And I think that has to be the primary focus of every legislator before you start getting into the weeds of other things, because that is your constitutional responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Next up, Terry.
Sometimes some things are hard to refine. Some of the comments you've heard are absolutely spot on. The statement made about the separation of power between church and state is true. The purpose of that was so the state stayed out of the church's business. The state could not create a church. As far as the rest of the First Amendment, we all absolutely support free speech, but it does need to be civil. And people's right to assembly is guaranteed. That also needs to be civil. And we ask legislators to take an oath to uphold both the state and the federal constitution. And we have certain constitutional authorities that we must follow when we participate in civil discourse in the state capitol. Anyway, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Terry. Next up, Christy.
Thank you. I am a second-generation American. My grandparents came here from Albania. On the other side, they came from England. I think I'm third or fourth generation there. We settled on the Utah-Idaho border. I grew up on a ranch in Stone. I grew up on a farm in northern Utah. Separation of church and state is just exactly that, so that the state does not form a church. As far as the First Amendment, you have a right to say what you want to say. You may hurt somebody's feelings, but I have a right to decide whether I'm going to have my feelings hurt or not by what you say. And as far as respecting people, just because I am a Christian, because I believe in God, and I believe that our rights are granted to us from God, that doesn't mean I do not respect someone who feels a different way or lives a different lifestyle. Some of my best friends in the whole entire world live a different lifestyle that I might not think is the way they should be living their life, but I love them. And I will fight to defend and protect their right to live their life as they see fit according to the dictates of their own conscience. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually read the Idaho Constitution. But it says in there that the legislature has a responsibility to legislate morality and temperance. That's why we license alcohol. That's why we distribute alcohol through a department, a bureaucratic agency, and some other things like that. But that doesn't mean that we don't respect the fundamental rights of every person in the state of Idaho. And I'll do everything in my power always to make sure that your rights are protected no matter what. That no matter how you choose to live your life, as long as you're not violating someone else's constitutional rights, you have a right to do that. Thank you.
Okay, this next question is for all legislative candidates from Sylvia Nixon. When and how will you start concentrating on feeding our kids, fixing our roads, and other important infrastructure, instead of spending our tax dollars attacking the minority groups in the state? This is for all of our legislative candidates. Let's start with the senators. For senator candidates, let's start with Christy Zitto.
Okay, I'm just going to be really honest with you. I'm not 100% sure who's being attacked. So I don't know how to go from there. There's no question that the responsibilities of government are few and defined. It's our job to take care of roads. It's our job to provide infrastructure. And we do that by making sure that we are judiciarily sound with the decisions that we make when it comes to the budget. Now, part of the problem that the state of Idaho has right now, as far as I can see, is over 45% of our budget is federal money. That means that's money that comes in that we really have to do what we're being told to by the federal government. It's really hard on your state sovereignty. It's really hard then for you to make decisions. Because that money that comes in typically has strings, regulations, guidelines, things you have to do, things you can't do, ways you can spend the money, and the ways you can't spend the money. There is a way to structurally reform our budget so that we can do this. I've got my little black binder up here, and I have all of the budgets that were voted on this year in the legislature. I have the maintenance budget, and then I have the enhancement budget. And the SOP, or the statement of purpose on the enhancement budgets, are really cool, because they show how much money was appropriated for the maintenance budgets. And then it shows how much money was appropriated for the enhancement budgets. And so you can see what was done. Let's take the state police, for example, because that's something that needs to be funded. They got a 5% raise. They were held harmless. The governor asked that they would be held harmless from the reductions, from the cuts. And so we did. But then there were some enhancement budgets that came in too, that maybe we didn't need to do, because we need to be very careful on what we appropriate, who we take care of, and who we don't. But as far as any people or any group of people in the state of Idaho being picked on or not taken care of, I think everybody's pretty well taken care of in the state of Idaho.
Thank you, Christy. Next up, Terry.
I believe that question had to do with infrastructure, roads, bridges, and first priority for us in the state, however, is water. We have to provide ample funding to take care of the water. You find a real deficit for water here, as we do in most of the state. And we have a lot of issues surrounding water, but let's talk about roads. I heard potholes and roads and bridges. And today, I don't care where you go, you have construction. And people complain about, oh, there's construction on that road. That's because we funded when I was in the legislature, and they continue to do so they can make those upgrades and improvements for the people. So anyway, on one hand, people complain about our poor roads, but on the other hand, they complain about construction sites. Well, you can't have one without, you can't fix the road without having construction sites. And we had a lot of bridges in this state that had to be replaced, and they're methodically taking care of that problem. So anyway, those two issues, water being number one, And I think the growing Treasure Valley is trying to take all our water. So, I don't know much more about water, but since I'm on the subject, District 8, we have the headwaters, we have the Stimroid, we have the headwaters of Salmon, we have the South Fork of Salmon, Middle Fork of Salmon. We have all of Fayette River, and we have Snake River. So we kind of have all the water, but we don't have enough water. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Next up, Megan.
Well, I think what the recurring theme should be, especially with regard to that question, is infrastructure in the state of Idaho. All different types of infrastructure. That means water infrastructure, that means transportation infrastructure, and that means our schools and the infrastructure of our rural schools so we can maintain those. And I think there needs to be a major reset on how the legislature starts looking at these issues. These are serious things, and they should be the focus of what we're sending people to Boise to do. And that's just not how it is anymore. I am extremely frustrated having been involved in the process of how we used to do the budgets versus how we're doing the budgets currently. In that we used to go through every single budget and look at the whole thing. And now it's just a blanket bill of whatever happened last year. What this doesn't do is give you an opportunity to look to see where cuts should be made or where investments could be made. You just get a blanket bill. And so it's significantly changed how we go forward when we make serious investments in our state. And I think that unless we start really truly looking at what we're doing and getting serious about investing in our state, we're going to continue to have this kind of problem. And we are experiencing growth at a rate that we've never seen. Most of us who've lived here our entire lives haven't seen ever. And we're trying to compensate for that growth. And the only way to do that is to reinvest in our state. And we need to do that. And I think that that's one thing the legislature has in the last 2 years fallen down on. And we need to get serious about your tax dollars, where they're going, and what people are doing in Boise. They need to be held accountable for some of these things. And I was going to give the last example, Kelly, because I was thinking of you when I saw this. In this big blanket tax cut bill, they cut the brand board funding. The brand board funding isn't even taxpayer dollars. It's the cowboys who pay into the brand board. So it's like saying you have $100 in your checkbook, but the legislature tells you you can only spend $50. And that's why I'm talking about we need to really seriously look at these things.
Let's move on to representatives. Let's start with Representative Bryan. Candidate for Representative Brian Beckley.
So sorry.
Thank you. So I think when it comes to infrastructure, and Megan's right, and we have to look at the budgets and go through them. As a CFO of my company in the past, and I run a small business from 7 employees to 130 employees over a 15-year period. You have to look at everything in detail. And you have to actually say, okay, this isn't just a maintenance budget. We've got to go through and we have to work with those agencies and find out where we can cut that fat. Where we can actually, because listen, not every agency's got, they're 350 pounds, this one might be 125, and they both should be 175. There's ways to get that done, but you have to work with the sorry about that. With the agencies, you have to do that. It needs to happen, and I think that's what I would do when I'm there. I think I will work to change how we actually do our budget, so we can actually work with the agencies directly rather than keeping them away, which is what's happened now. So, thank you.
Candidate Becky. Next up, candidate Thompson.
We do have aging infrastructure in this state, the entire state. We got potholes in Elmore County, and we got really big potholes going into Custer County, and Valley County, and Kootenai County. I mean, the whole state's suffering with our roads. What I would like to see is, we have so many sub-agencies. I mean, we've got an agency for this, an agency for that. And there's so much waste in so many of these areas that we need to start taking a better look at, is this a necessary, is this proper role of government in this agency? And if it's not, then we need to do away with that agency and put that money towards transportation. We are constitutionally mandated to fund transportation. And for schools, first grade through 12, and Idaho State University. That's it. Constitutionally, that's all we're supposed to, no. U of I, thank you, I apologize. U of I always get those two mixed up. So we have a lot of, gosh, there's 200 schools or something like that in this state that we are paying our tax money to. And what we have to remember is it is our money. It's your money, and it's your money. It's not the state's money. It's coming off of our backsides. So we do need to look into that so that we can start taking care of this aging infrastructure and our roads, but do it within our current budgeting program.
Thank you, Representative Thompson. Candidate Thompson. We're almost done, guys. Any other way to do this? Let's wrap it up with the last two candidates. Candidate Sean Hall.
First thing I would do, I think is really important, is look at the #1 expense item in the budget, and that's health. That's over $5 billion a year Idaho is spending on health. How much of that is going in fraud? Where is that money going? That is our #1 item. That is just massive. It is like 40% of the total budget, something like that. I think we need to start seriously passing some bills that provide transparency for the Idaho people so they can see where their money is going. Second, the roads infrastructure definitely needs emphasis, but as they've mentioned, budgets are tight. So where do you come up with the money? I definitely am opposed to increasing any taxes whatsoever. I think we need to first clean up our spend before we can really focus on cleaning up the budget. In addition, District 8 has an additional pain point. We're 14,000 square miles. We've got way more space than, say, Treasure Valley. Yet they have a lot more representation, so it's a tough battle. So we need people that are going to go in and fight and get the resources to our district so we can improve the roads and the infrastructure in them. I think we've been neglected, quite honestly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Now, Rob.
Yeah, so the state legislature, our #1 job is the budget, right? Really, all we have to do is the budget. We could really come there and be done in a few weeks if we want to approve budgets and walk out of there. And, the top 2 budget items are, health and welfare and education. By far, those eat up most of the budget. The struggle with, when you go through the Health and Welfare Committee with Faye, and most of the health and welfare items are federally funded mandatory programs. I mean, you can't cut a lot of it, you can't touch it, it's just there, and it's going to go on unless, I guess, we just opt out of the whole thing, which people on, feeding tubes and such like that probably wouldn't appreciate too much. So yeah, we got to boil it down though. So we're so cautious in our spending. So I vote against many of the budget increases because we do have to be careful with it. We need, when you're setting a budget, I run a small business before with my wife and all that, and you have to really prioritize your spending, just like you do with your family, just like you do with the county, just like you do with the city. Here's what we need the most, and here's what we go through. So we got to make sure that every dollar counts, right, and on down, and really put the pressure on the agencies. This year, to say, hey, you're going to have to do with less. We're doing with less. We're all struggling here. We're all tight here, and especially for Idaho. If you look at the incomes, what people make and stuff, it's not very high, right? We're not a really rich district. So, yeah, I'm going to continue to insist on, budgets, that are sensible, that are fair to everybody else. We're going to fight for District 8, but also we just got to keep our priorities in line and as much as we can.
nearing the 8:30 hour, we're running a little bit behind, but I do think it would only be fair for us to wrap up with some closing statements. So all of our candidates have 2 minutes for closing statements. Bonus points if you stick under 2 minutes, and I don't have to pull the mic from you. So let's start with the representative side. Candidate Faye Thompson.
Dear lady is very tired. I'm Representative Johnson. When I was elected to office in 2024, I took an oath to follow the U.S. Constitution, which is the Constitution of Idaho, and I kept that promise. And I also continue to tell you that I will continue to keep that promise. We have a lot of moving parts in the legislature, and this year was very difficult. We had so many bills coming at us, and so many of them came in the last 2 to 3 weeks. It was exhausting, and it was very difficult to be able to read all the bills. I read all the bills. I promise you that I do read the bills. Am I perfect? No, I am not perfect. But I am honest. I do have integrity. And I will continue to live that way. Integrity is something that you do when nobody else is watching. And I am a Christian, and I'm very proud of that. I am going to finish with one thing. My opponent is supported by IACI and company. You're all getting the mailers, you're seeing the TV ads, the radio ads, the texts. A lot of them are not true of me. What they are doing is supporting an individual that they believe that they can control. And that's the reason why they are trying to come after me, is they cannot control me. And that's it. I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. And I know people in the legislature that are suffering a possible loss of their fortunes. Not just one, but there's 2 of them. One, his business was burnt down by arson. We take this very seriously, and I hope that you will vote for me on May 19th.
Thank you. Next up, candidate Brian Beckley.
So when I think about what I'm running for to be a representative of District 8 and the constituents in District 8, the citizens. And my opponent has not done that. She has pledged to groups out of Texas, Pennsylvania, other IFF, different things. My pledge is to the citizens, to the constituents of District 8, not to any special interest groups. As I get accused of constantly, oh, big business, go look at my campaign fund. It's a grassroots campaign fund. We're raising money from folks in Elmore County, Baldwin County, Custer County, and from friends and family throughout the state. And I will tell you that as your representative, I'm going to work with the local leaders, as I said earlier. I'm going to work with mayors. I'm going to be there and answer the questions and follow what they need me to do. That's who I answer to. I don't answer to anybody else. I would answer to the citizens of District 8, and to the rural citizens of this state, or this district, and it needs help. We've got to have a representative that actually fights for our values, that lives those values. We have got to we've got to have that person, and we've got, and I, Brian Beckley, would be your representative that would do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next up, candidate Rob Eisinger.
Thank you for coming tonight, and appreciate the Mountain Home Chamber of Commerce putting this on, to take your time, and I was really grateful for the chance to represent you for 2 years here, and I hope we earn it again here. You know, I moved to Idaho with a family here for a safe place to live, work, and raise a family, and I hope to keep fighting the same kind of things I fought for, our health freedoms, our family values, our faith values, our personal responsibility, all the kind of things we want to instill, you know, that we share here in Idaho, right? And I just want to offer again, you guys to contact me. I want to work with you guys and try to make myself really accessible. It's really part of the job here of networking between different groups and stuff and synthesizing information and pooling it from somebody, finding the right people to listen to. And so I'm just really grateful for a chance to be here with you. I haven't met many people at a door or at functions before or at different events, and it's just always great to be with you guys. And honestly, maybe you guys spend more time at the Capitol and have a little more fun up there. Thank you.
Next up, Representative Sean. Dang it, those were so good. I had to go before. Candidate Sean Hall. We're all candidates tonight, right? I'm not being a candidate for FC next time. Candidate Sean Hall.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming tonight and being a part of this seminar forum. Couple things come to mind. It's in the name, representative. That's what I will be to you, a representative, right? I'm not representing anything else, just you. I will be your voice in the State House. I won't be bowing to anyone else. They say, like with DC, Washington, if you go to DC, what do they say? Get a dog, right? Because you're not going to make friends. Well, guess what? I have cats. My wife's a cat lady. My cats hate me. So I'm used to it, okay? So, but the point is, I'm there to represent you. Boise has a lot of issues. Looking at it, I was studying it, like, the entrenchment is a massive, massive, massive problem, right? We have a guy leading the State House has been there coming up on 30 years, right? That's a big challenge. So getting things done is definitely challenging. There's a lot of work to do. The first thing I'll do is reach out to each county. If I get elected, I will reach out to each county commissioners. What's at the top of the list? What do you need from me? Each one, I will get one thing from each county and I will go work on that. In addition, I will be working on transparency. I think the people of Idaho deserve to know what's happening in their state, and when they do, they're going to wake up and start to realize, what, we need new representation. Thank you. I look forward to your vote. May 19th, Sean Hall. Thank you.
Okay, let's hear some closing statements for candidates on Senator side. Candidate Cristizo.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here tonight and sitting here so long. I know that those chairs are not the most comfortable to sit on, and your legs are probably tired and sore, and you probably sleep somewhere else too. I'm really grateful that you stuck it out. Again, I served you in the House, I served you in the Senate. I stand by my voting record. I spend hours going over the legislation that I vote on. We dig into the budgets. We meet every morning, a group of us, and go over what we're looking at. We read the budget sheets that are put out by JPAS every morning. We don't just look and say, oh, it's a maintenance budget, so we're going to vote on it. Because it's important to you and it's important to me. Because the only way you can be really free, especially living in this great country, is to be financially free. As long as you're a slave to the state, as long as you're never going to own your property because you're paying taxes on it, you're never going to be truly free. I have fought for you. I've defended your freedom on every level as I served you. If you choose to send me back, I'll be greatly honored, and I'll be so happy to be able to go back and sit in that chair and be sitting there again. If you choose you want to go a different direction, I'm going to love you all just as much. Nothing will change. I'll work for you maybe in different ways, but I truly would be honored to be your senator again. And I would appreciate your vote on May 19th. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Next up, candidate Terry Gesture.
Thank you, and thank everyone for your attention. It's been a long night for you, I'm sure. Anyway, I look forward to going back to work for you. The people of District 8, It's actually more urban today than it was the district when I had represented before, because we had Jim County and Limerick County, which was salmon, and I did not have Elmore County. But I look forward to representing the people in Elmore County and learn your issues. As I stated before, I'm a local government guy to start with, and the state needs to watch out for our small governments in Idaho, our county and cities, and I'm not talking about the state of Ada or the whatever city that is over there. And I fight for your water, keep it clean and bountiful, but we've got to make sure we don't over appropriate, which we have done sometimes. And anyway, I look forward to going to work for you in Boise. Thank you.
Thank you. And last up, candidate Megan Blanksma.
This is probably the least enviable position of anyone because I'm standing between you and your radical. So I understand that. I know you're ready to get out of here. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, the chamber, for having us all and setting this up. It's been great. I would like to end on somewhat of an uplifting note. This has been kind of a little rough when we start talking about the situation going on right now in the state of Idaho. But I want you to know that I am a very proud farm mom, rural Idahoan. I'm proud to be from rural Idaho. And I think it's something worth fighting for. This is where I raise my children. This is where we work and farm. And they learn things out here that they would never learn in Ada County. And I'm proud of that. There's a lot of things they learned. Like, for example, they learned that they don't like to work for their dad and grandpa. That was a key, a very, very key point that they picked up. But I think that we need to really get down to having a senator that's in the State House that comes home at night and understands what it's like to live out here and doesn't just move in Boise. I think that that's important. That's what I did when I was there. Every night I came home. And sometimes that was because we had girls' basketball games, or sometimes, whatever events we had. But I came home, and because I think it's important, because your touchstone is here, it's in with your own communities and your own family. And that's what needs to be represented in the State House. And I have done that in the past, and I promise you I will continue to function that way in the future. So I'm asking for your vote. Megan Blanksma, and I think early voting is now open, if you want to go do that, but official election day is May 19th, so thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the candidates, and you're wrong, Megan, I'm the one saying you can go home. So a few more words to say. Most importantly, I want to thank our candidates for coming out tonight. I also want to remind you that you now know what Mountain Home is. So we will see all of you a few more times. And especially for Airport Appreciation Day, September 12th, you're all invited. So I want to see all 7 of you out here for Airport Appreciation Day. Hopefully it's for good reason, but either way, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for coming back. Mountain Home will be happy to have you. And to everyone for coming out tonight, thank you to those who participated. And don't forget to do your research and vote on May 19th at the very latest. Thank you and have a good night.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Anytime.